You're listening to the OCD Stories podcast, hosted by me, Stuart Ralph. The OCD Stories is a podcast dedicated to raising awareness and understanding around obsessive-compulsive symptoms. I do this through interviewing inspired therapists, psychologists, and people who have experienced OCD. Welcome to the OCD Stories. And welcome to episode 445 of the podcast. And in this one, I chat with Grace, who has kindly agreed to share her OCD story with us. In particular, we talk about real event-themed OCD, magical thinking, contamination-themed OCD, PANS, medication, therapy, humour, and what else helps her, and much, much more. And thank you to NoCD for supporting the podcast. NoCD offers effective and convenient therapy available in the US and outside the US. To find out more about NoCD, their therapy plans, if they currently take your insurance, or to download their free app, head to go.treatmyocd.com/the OCD stories, or the link will be in the episode description. Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting our work. To sign up to our Patreon and to check out the other benefits you'll receive as a patron, please see the link in the show notes. So thank you so much to Grace for her time and her story, and of course thank you to you guys for listening. As always, it means a lot. Without further ado, here is Grace. Welcome to the podcast, Grace.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries. It's good to have you on. And as you know, I'd love to hear your OCD story, and you can share that now in as little or as much detail as you want to give.
So I was diagnosed at 16, but I definitely had issues before that. One thing, I don't remember it, but my mom always tells me when I was around 8, she picked up my books without asking me, and I had this like huge breakdown. Was super anxious, crying, screaming, all that. And it was kind of written off as just the way that I did things. It was like my system. And actually, my brother has OCD, and he was diagnosed a lot earlier because he had the hand washing and the typical OCD symptoms, but I was, like I said, just kind of written off. And I realized there might be a problem when I was 16. And I had realized for the past 3 years, I had been obsessively making lists, feeling like I had to know everything. I'd reread books, pages of books over and over if I didn't feel like I fully comprehended it. I felt like everything needed to be perfect. That was kind of how it started, the perfectionism. And I brought it up and to people in my life, and it was, again, just kind of written off like, no, that's probably not a big deal. Like, the world isn't perfect. Deal with it. And then I went to the doctor actually for depression. And I, to this day, I have no idea how he noticed that I had OCD, but all I remember is him just like looking at me and asking me if I have symptoms of OCD. And my assumption is that I was like tapping or bouncing my leg in an even number or something like that, because I did that a lot. And it turned out that one of his daughters had OCD, so he knew the signs of it. And he noticed very quickly that I had it. And so I said, yeah, and I told him my symptoms, needing everything to be perfect, feeling really anxious. And he diagnosed me then and started treating me with Lexapro, and it worked for a little bit. And then it stopped working. And after that, I was put on a series of other medications that just made me worse. I was on Zoloft and risperidone, which I think that one might have worked a little bit at first and then stopped working. And I was on Cymbalta, and it was just a whole lot of medications that didn't work. Um, and I was in therapy, but I don't know. I was told I was seeing an OCD specialist, but it didn't help at all, and it wasn't ERP, which I know is kind of like the gold standard for OCD. Um, so I just started struggling more and more, and I didn't, yeah, nothing really got better, and I started developing a bunch of other subtypes. Magical thinking. I would freak out if someone in my family didn't answer the phone because I was convinced that they were hurt or something. Um, and I I still dealt with perfectionism and just right OCD. And then I started dealing with real event OCD, which was the worst. Like just feeling like the worst person in the world, based on my mistakes. And I think some of what I was ruminating on uh, were real mistakes that I regretted making, but I think some of them were really exaggerated, and or it was like a real event, but there was a twist to it in my brain, and just feeling like I can never redeem myself for anything that I've done. And there's nothing that I can do. And I would hear all the time that, it doesn't matter what you've done, it matters who you are now. And while that helped at first, I then started feeling like I am just a bad person. So everything that I do now, I don't know if I'm doing something wrong. Um, and yeah, that was the theme that really took over for me, was the real event stuff, um, and just feeling like a bad person because it mattered to me to be a good person. Um, so that I still haven't, I still struggle a lot with my OCD. I still haven't really recovered at all. But I'm working on it. I have another therapist now that is working with me, and they're not trying any more medication, like in the SSRI category, because it doesn't seem like it works. But they're still trying with therapy and stuff. So that's where I'm at right now.
Oh, yeah, thank you for sharing. And does the magical thinking still affect you now?
Not as much.
Mm.
Occasionally it pops up, but I used to not be able to sleep if my dad didn't answer the phone. And I could not focus on anything else. That doesn't happen anymore. I
Mm.
don't feel as anxious if I can't get a hold of someone. So,
Okay. Okay, good. And yeah, you said the doctor noticed that it might be OCD.
mhm.
Probably because your leg may have been, did you say tapping or uh
Yeah, I think I was probably bouncing my leg. I don't
bouncing?
know for sure, but he just looked at me and noticed it.
Yeah, yeah. So your parents, I guess they made the appointment thinking something's up or something's wrong, or
Yeah, my mom made the appointment because I seemed depressed,
oh,
as
okay.
far as that's what it was.
Yeah, fair enough. And remind me, what age was that when you met that doctor?
Well, I met the doctor when I was, I think, about 15, but that was when I was 16.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, were you just noticing at school there was just how are you? Because I always imagine when OCD is undiagnosed or just any mental health and people are at school, mainly because that's my experience of like no one really knowing and trying to go through school with all this stuff in your head. Like what was that like for you?
Well, actually, I have a lot of physical health issues, and so I didn't spend a lot of time at school to begin with. Um, when I was about, well, it started when I was 12, and then when I was 13 was when I spent a lot of time out of school. I would only go twice a week to meet with a tutor. And to my knowledge and like thinking back, I don't remember it affecting that much. And then when I was 15, I actually stopped going to public school and started going online. And it was a self-paced thing. So I actually, when my OCD got really bad when I was 16, I don't think I was doing much schoolwork.
Okay.
And I think that was part of the reason, was I was just struggling so much with that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And do your you said you've had a lot of issues with physical illnesses. Uh, do they play into the OCD or vice versa at all?
Yeah, I I think so. And it wasn't because of, well, my physical health might have had something to do with it. I already had OCD, but I was also diagnosed with PANS when I was 17. So that might have played a part, but actually I think the reason that being physically sick affected me mentally wasn't the illness itself, but the fact that I was isolated and I was home so much. And that really gives you a lot of time to think. I actually noticed that a lot. This past week, I was on a short trip, and the day I got back, I woke up and my OCD was awful after not being that bad for a few days. So I definitely think that plays a part in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. And yeah, you mentioned real event, which is a theme of OCD I've experienced, and much like you, it was the theme that kind of broke me. Um, and uh, yeah, I guess does it come up for you now? Is it the theme you're still struggling with, or is it something that's gone a bit?
Yeah, it's a theme I still struggle with, although I do deal a lot with past events and things I did, especially when I was a teenager,
Mhm.
which wasn't that long ago because I'm 23 now. Um, and I deal a lot with that, but what really bothers me the most now is looking too much into the choices I make today. Or the feelings I have or the thoughts I have, like, well, this must mean this.
Mm.
And sometimes they are so exaggerated, and sometimes they're exaggerated, but they're close enough to logic that it confuses me. And then
Yeah.
there are some times when I have thoughts that are logical, but my reaction to them is just too much.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, when there's logic there, sometimes it can really or it really murks the water, that makes the water murky, and what's OCD, what's not.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Okay. And with your therapist now, how long have you been working with them?
I've been working with my OCD therapist since October, I believe. So quite a few months.
Yeah. And what sort of things are you doing with them, if you want to share?
Well, I do a lot of self-monitoring because I feel like, well, I miss a lot of things if I don't take note of them. Um, and different exposures and stuff. I still don't feel like I've really gotten into the thick of it, but yeah, I've actually for the first time in my OCD, I'm dealing with contamination issues,
Mm.
and that is not something that I've dealt with. So that's kind of what we've been working on recently.
Yeah.
Because like I'm scared to touch the faucet on the sink and doorknobs and light switches and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, interesting. So have you been doing exposures around that, or pulling back on compulsions you may be doing?
Yeah. I've been doing some exposures with that. Like after I wash my hands, touching um the knob on the sink. Um things like that. Um yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And you mentioned self-monitoring. Just so I understand, is that sort of, you mean you're sort of checking your body or how you're feeling or
Yeah, how I'm feeling, what is in my brain at the time, and my SUD score.
okay. So are you meaning this you're doing this as a compulsion or something as in
Now,
recovery?
this is for me, it's part of recovery.
Yeah.
And I know it's not compulsion because I don't feel overwhelming anxiety if I don't do it.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Um, yeah, so it's really just to kind of get an idea of what is going on and what's bothering me the most, what I need to work on. Yeah.
Mm, yeah. Okay. Yeah, interesting. Um, nice. And what have you found? Have you found anything difficult about starting to work with an OCD specific therapist versus maybe some of the other ones you've worked with before?
Um, no,
That's
nothing
good.
difficult.
Yeah. And ERP's been fairly, I know you said you're not quite in the thick of it yet, you feel, but from what you have done, you felt that's been okay and you've been able to move through it and work on it.
Yeah, it's been nerve-wracking,
Yeah.
definitely. But it's yeah, I really think it is the only thing that's gonna make me feel better. So
Okay. And is there anything else aside from the ERP that you've been doing with the therapist that's helpful
um
or that you've liked? Or...
well one thing that I have found kind of helpful is a lot of the time I'll express a fear to her and she'll repeat it back to me in kind of like an exaggerated, sarcastic tone. And
Mm,
then for some of them, I can hear, okay, yeah, that's ridiculous, even though I didn't think that at first.
mm,
And that it kind of helps me laugh at it because I
mm.
would much rather laugh than obsess over it and get really anxious. So
Okay. Oh, nice. So yeah, it's kind of helping you see the how far-fetched the thought might be when she
yeah,
repeats it in that
yeah.
voice. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, interesting. What was it like the first time she did that? Did she warn you she was going to do that, or did she?
No, no, she
Okay.
just did it. And immediately, I was like, okay, yeah, I get it.
Okay.
Could start laughing at it. It
Yeah.
wasn't upsetting or anything the first time she did it.
Okay, good.
Because it doesn't feel like she's not taking me seriously or anything.
Yeah.
It just definitely can put things into perspective for me.
Yeah. Good point. Good point. Is there anything you do, say, outside of therapy that can help put it in perspective for you? Whether that's
Um,
you say it in a silly voice or something like that.
um, Sometimes just speaking it to a friend can
Mm.
help. Um, I mean, one of my friends has OCD too, so I know
Okay.
that I can talk to her about it.
Yeah. And does she not reassure you? Does she kind of make sure she's not?
Um, she most of the time just listens,
Okay,
doesn't
good.
necessarily respond verbally, in any big way.
Mm.
So yeah, she doesn't reassure me.
Okay, good. I'm glad. And I guess you do the same for her.
I try to, yeah.
Okay, cool. Nice. Um, so what else helps you, do you think, aside from therapy? What else helps you with either OCD or just like mental well-being? Um,
Um, well, I'm a writer, and that helps. Sometimes getting it down, just writing about my experience with it, can be
mm,
therapeutic. And also, I'm a huge music fan, so actually listening to music. about OCD or that reminds me of OCD can help a lot. Um, I'm not sure why. It just helps me
Hmm.
like I guess feel understood.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. And a big Harry Potter fan.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just, yeah, anyone listening that can't see, um, Grace has got a Sirius Black poster right behind you.
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Nice. In the Harry Potter studios just outside of London, if you go there, they can take your photo and put you in one of those Azkaban type prints.
That's awesome. I
It's
love
really
that.
quite cool, yeah. Um, I'm sure they do that somewhere in America too, but
I think you can order them on the website.
oh,
Um,
okay. Yeah.
Survey. But you have to like upload your own photo and stuff.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so they have the Harry Potter store in New York. I don't know if they do it there, but
Ah, yeah. Yeah, they might do. Because it's interesting, right? Because Harry Potter, there's lots of, well, because J.K. Rowling has OCD.
really?
Yeah, and there's at least what I've read. Did try and get on the podcast. Didn't work. But she, yeah, if you look at like the boggart, what's the one that transforms into your fear?
Oh, the
Is it the
oh my God.
boggart?
Yeah, Bogart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Sorry,
that,
I for some reason I kept thinking Dementor and I knew that was the thing outside of
yeah.
Azkaban. So
Well, that, yeah, the boggart reminds me of OCD, how it just constantly changes themes. Like now you're sort of worried with contamination, whereas before you didn't care. And then the Death Eater as well. I think they're also probably symbolic for OCD. Um,
yeah,
they
I've
lurk
never,
behind you, and yeah,
but that makes sense. Yeah,
mm, yeah. I don't know this for sure, but I reckon she must have intertwined it in some way, her own experiences.
makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And with the writing, is this just like journaling you do?
I don't journal very often. Um, I mostly write personal essays.
Okay.
Uh, and in fact, my first published piece was about OCD. Um,
Nice.
and I write fictional pieces, but I'm an English student actually, and I took creative writing last semester, and there was a unit on poetry, and I've always wanted to write poetry, but I've never been that great at it.
Mm,
Um, but then last semester when we got into poetry, I finally kind of found a voice in poetry. And my favorite thing that I wrote was a poem about mental health. It had OCD aspects, but
mm.
really it was just about mental health in general. And that helped me a lot to get that out.
That's awesome. Was it like an exposure publishing that? Did you feel vulnerable or was it for different
Um,
reasons?
well, um, I didn't go into it thinking that, but the yeah, the essay that I published, it I did look back on it and then started finding all the little things and was
Mm.
like, "Oh my God, I what if this isn't true? What if I'm lying?" Um,
Yeah.
like I mentioned that something gave me so much anxiety, like it could keep me up at night, and then I re went back and read it and I was like, does it really make me that anxious? Could it keep me up at night, or was I just exaggerating? Am I a horrible person? Am I a liar?
Mm.
So I definitely had issues with that. But it got a little better. So I suppose reading it could be an exposure if that still makes me anxious. But yeah, I I definitely gave into the compulsion on that one.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. It happens. Um,
Yeah.
okay, cool. But yeah, I'm glad writing is a good outlet for you and you're expressing that stuff. So let me think. So words of hope for anyone listening, what would you tell them?
Um, of hope.
Yeah.
I wish I had more to say, because I do still really struggle,
Mm.
but I will say, that even though I have themes that I have not tackled yet, I did when I was about 19, I had this compulsion, and it tied in with feeling like I needed to know everything and I needed to remember everything. I would memory hoard, I'm pretty sure is the term for it.
Mm.
And I felt that I needed to write down every thought that I had. And when you have like thousands of thoughts, that's a
A
lot.
lot.
Um,
Mm.
and so I was struggling to find the right words for some of them, and so I would just try so hard to accurately get it down, and then I'd put my phone or my notepad or whatever down, and then seconds later have another thought and need to write it down. And that felt like that took over my life, and it felt like I was never going to get through it. And one day I uh resisted it. It actually, I don't know if it's like this for everyone, but for me, my compulsions aren't as bad in the morning, like right when I wake up. So even though I kind of had the urge to do that, it was a little like watered down, I guess. And so I did end up resisting it, and I haven't done that in years.
Mm.
And it doesn't bother me anymore. I don't feel like I have to do that at all. Um,
Awesome.
and so it is possible, even though not doing a compulsion can seriously feel like the end of the world.
Yeah.
Um, but it is possible to get through it, and like different themes can pop up, but even though like certain themes feel worse than others, they all kind of work the same. And if um, you do work on it, it is 100% possible to stop a compulsion and to stop an obsession.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, good words. Thank you. Um, and let's say if you could pick up the phone and call let's go 16-year-old you, what do you tell her?
Um, take it seriously. Um, advocate for yourself. Um, and remember, take your medication religiously. Um, speak up if therapy isn't helping you, and just resist the urge to write stuff down, because that's really how it started, like
Oh,
making
okay.
lists, because it's gonna get so much worse if you keep going. Um, and that's the thing with OCD. If you don't work on it, then it can get a lot worse as time goes on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's exactly what I would warn her about.
Yeah, good phone call. And you got a billboard where you live. What do you want written on that billboard?
Wow. I don't know. Um,
It literally could be anything. It doesn't have to be OCD, by the way.
okay. Um, anything. Um, truthfully, I think I'm not sure how I would word it, but I think I would use it for something to do with OCD like awareness,
Mm.
because it really it's not taken seriously, and it's the reason that I was diagnosed so late, was
Mm.
because that one wasn't actually because it wasn't taken seriously, even though mine kind of wasn't at first, but it was because people were unaware that this could be OCD.
Mm.
So I think I really just want it known that OCD does not have to be hand washing. Some people, of course, believe that like it's just being neat and organized. And it can be that, but it's a lot more distressing than people typically think. but it can be so much more than that. You don't have to be afraid of contamination at all. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, important billboard. And then lastly, is there anything else you wish you could have said or shared today?
I don't think so.
Yes. Cool. Well, look, thank you so much for sharing your story. I really appreciate it, and it's been good hearing it.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for listening to this week's podcast. And thank you to our Patreons who helped make this episode possible. And if you would like to find out more about Patreon and the rewards and benefits, then there will be a link in the episode description. If you enjoy the OCD Stories podcast and would like to support us, please subscribe and rate the show wherever you listen to the podcast. And thank you to NoCD for supporting our work. And if you want to find out more about NoCD, head to go.treatmyocd.com/the OCD Stories or click the link in the episode description. And quick disclaimer, guys, this podcast is not therapy. It is not a replacement for therapy. Please seek treatment from a trained professional. And until we speak, take care.